Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Infinite Improvement Podcast with myself, Coach Christo, and of course, Coach Andres. Today, we're talking about advice that we got from someone outside of sports that we were able to translate not only into our life, but also into our play on the field and our life as athletes, coaches. And I think it's important to talk about, this stuff because I'm of the opinion, and I think that Andres agrees with me, although I'm not 100% sure, that a lot of, your life translates to what you do on the field. We're always talking about how important it is as coaches to care about the person, not just the player. And I think it's important for players to care about themselves as people and not just see themselves as athletes and define themselves only by what they do on the field. So I think that a lot of the stuff that you live, it'll affect you on the field, and also it can be very powerful to translate that stuff from your life into sport to become the athlete that you can be. So I think this was an interesting question that someone asked me once, and yeah, we'll see what our answers are. Our Andres is gonna go first. So Andres, take it away.
So mine is, I guess I never have one exact answer because there's so many answers that your questions bring up. But I guess the answer that started in my head was just the statement is your inability to rest is an act of arrogance. Um, and so I was looking back to moments in my life where that was very prevalent, and I think it starts. I have a friend that I played with at Boston University, um, and he's probably one of the most talented players I've played with. And then he got drafted to Red Bull, Red Bull, um, and then I was talking to him while he was in preseason, and as the season was about to get started, and then um, I I heard that he was going to start a game. I don't know it wasn't it was just a regular game. um and so I watched the game, and then that was the game that do you remember Henri when he scored and he did the celebration on the pole, and he just like
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
so 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 he started the play for that goal. um my friend, his name is Michael. um
Maybe we'll
and
get
so I
the
checked on
we'll
him.
get the video on here.
Maybe
So make
we'll
sure
get the
you're
video.
watching
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
on
Make sure
YouTube.
you're
If you didn't
watching.
watch the last
um
episode, we put some clips in there, so that was pretty fun to do. So yeah, sorry
yeah.
about that.
So yeah, so I'm sure everybody has seen the meme where like Henri's just laying on the pole post. I think it was because it was his 400th goal, something like that. Um, and so I reached out to my friend, and I was asking him, oh, how did he feel, and how did it go? And then he just told me that before the game he got this advice from Henri, and it was just that just let the game come to you. Um, don't always look for the ball. Don't chase for the ball. Just let things come to you, and then the moment will come where you'll be asked to do what you got to do and what you know how to do. Um, and it was really interesting because him being one of the most talented players I've played with, um, normally the most skillful midfielders want to go get the ball, want to be involved in all of the play, and then you hear from this guy who's played in the Premier League and is an icon in the Premier League, telling you to, you know what, do less, do a little bit less, and so that was something that stayed with me in the back of my head. But at that moment, I was still playing, and I didn't necessarily incorporate it into my player stage as much as maybe I should have. And now I see a lot of my players do the same thing. They want to be involved. They want to be involved. They want to be involved, and then they get involved in moments in the game that maybe actually are counterproductive to their actual abilities. And then that takes me to I think it was the year of the pandemic, 19. Yeah. So it was like January, June, and I started Infinite Ballers, and then it was a 5 month curriculum. So we went from July all the way to December. So it was 2 times a week, and it was creating. We had like the outline for the content, but we were still creating things on the daily. So we would meet almost every day with the people that I was executing it with. Um, and then by the time December that the curriculum ended, I was drained, and I had nothing inside of me left. And and I got this feeling that like I had forgotten about Andres, and I was too busy trying to do, and I got the feeling again of do less. And so I decided to take the first month of the year completely off, like off. Um, and and so just pushing back, um, just to recalibrate and get things going again. And it was interesting that like once I took that full month off, in February, I did the first outdoors infinite barter clinic, and then things went really well. And then I think a few weeks later, that's when I reached out for. I heard from Avi Villa, and then we did collaboration with Infinite Ballers, and so had I just gone right into January trying to do, I don't know that I would have found the space to create a really good program, reflect on what I did well, let whatever it was that we did build its own credibility with the players that were part of the curriculum, and do less. And then this year again, so it's interesting because you learn things and then you go and repeat. This year I went at it again, and I did again. I did another curriculum. Um, but this year, the difference was that I had gone back to club coaching. And so my rhythms, so I was coaching club and I was coaching high school. And then when I had that gap between the break of club season, I incorporated a curriculum, the Invisible Game. And throughout that month, my body felt that it needed rest, but I was still stuck, and it wasn't crazy work, but creating content is draining, and then it's a different way to transmit energy through the Zoom calls, because you got to like really figure out who's getting it, who's not getting it.
Yeah.
And on the field, you feel it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I feel like it's tough.
And
Like a lot of the time when you have more than two people, if you're doing something like virtually, it's this like so much like
yeah,
interrupting and this and that. Like the synergy in person is just like
yeah,
so much easier to it's so much easier to
yes.
tell when someone's about to talk. Whereas like on here, like it's a lot more difficult.
And you have that like two people talk at the same time, and then they
Yeah.
both stop, and they both
Yeah.
go. And by the end of December, um, the last call was on December 30th, and I was trained, and I remember we started Abbey Villa winter training on January 3rd, and it was an indoor session, and I know we were going up to like 10 p.m. with these sessions, and it was one of those sessions you were there, and I was gonna run a drill, and I felt like I was gonna faint. Like I felt my body get cold, and I was like, and I think it might have been Yuri or one of the players was like, "Coach, did you forget the drill?" And bro, like I was ready to say, "Christo, take over," because my body was giving up on me. Um, but somehow I got through the session, and that day was, I think it was the day we had the most amount of players. In the later session, the first winter session, it was the O5s, the O6, and some
Yeah.
O7s. Um, and so all of these things were caught up in my head, and my body reacted to it. And that phrase, I was listening to this person that I take a lot of advice to, and that was the phrase that came out. Said, "Hey, your inability to rest is an act of arrogance," and I was like, say more.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I'm an arrogant person to like, I don't think people would necessarily describe me in that manner. And it's like, no, like forget about the people around you that have to describe you. It's more, there's things, the world will continue if you stop. And the world will continue if you keep going, but the world will be okay if you think a little bit more about this body that is gonna be what helps you coach, create content, hang out, eventually have a significant other, and then have kids. And so it came to me that, this culture is very much around grind and lose sleep and forget about eating,
And
as long as
no,
you're putting in the work.
yeah, not even that, but like I think that a lot of the things that people think are relaxing are not
Mm,
relaxing. So like even I succumb to this too. I mean, like in this day and age, like there is something like to stimulate you that you can do at any moment in time. Like I'm like 2 clicks away from being on YouTube watching some stupid video. I'm 2 clicks away from
yeah,
being
yeah,
on
yeah,
TikTok,
yeah,
scrolling through my For You page. I'm, I'm
yeah,
like a second away from this or that, like especially, very
yeah,
much today with like the phone is right there. Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and and like, taking like a period of time off is super helpful. I think that taking, time every single day to do nothing is one of the
mm,
most helpful things. And this is why like people always are like, oh, all Christo ever tells you to do to like build confidence and be like, more mentally, more to increase your mental health and stuff is like meditate or like whatever. Like, I'm not
yeah,
some like hippie, like, meditating like for hours every day or something,
yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah,
I make a point 10 minutes a day. I do something that's actually relaxing, even
hmm,
if it's just 10 minutes, and even if it's reading a book, or
yep,
if it is like sitting alone and just thinking, or listening to
yeah,
music, and like at least 10 minutes where no one expects anything of me and I don't expect anything for myself. That is
yeah,
like that is relaxing. And like being
yep,
on, watching TV or playing video games, like these things, I'm not saying that they're necessarily like bad or something, but it's a different
yeah,
kind of relaxing.
mm,
And sometimes you need to like take a step back, and instead of doing something relaxing that's still like stimulating, you need to do something
yeah,
actually, relaxing. And I feel like the only time
yeah,
a lot of people do that is when they're sleeping, and like it's something they
mm,
don't have like control over.
yeah,
I think being able to
that's good.
control yourself and like take a step back is so helpful. And like obviously,
Yeah,
if you can't take, a week off, you can't take a month off, do something every day. Just something. It doesn't
yeah,
need to, take away from the hard work that you're putting in, but you can only put in that hard work if
yeah,
you're taking care of yourself, right?
yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, you gotta build the rhythms around it. And it's interesting that you bring up sleep because I don't it doesn't matter what you believe created you, whatever your theology is, but you end your day with sleep and you start with your day with sleep, no matter what. And so you are designed to to rest. And it's actually undervalued how effective, how our efficiency is dependent on this ability to rest. And if you don't sleep, you'll die. If you go a whole week without sleeping, which I don't even think that's possible, you increase your chances of dying sooner. And so it's almost like, um, somewhere in whatever created us, it was in our DNA to sleep. And it's sleep is actually an act of humility to say, I'm gonna put my head down, I'm gonna do nothing, and everything else is gonna be. When I wake up tomorrow, the world is still gonna be it's still gonna be there, you know. And it's like, I think sometimes from a good heart, it can be carried away with like, let me check in on this player. Is he doing okay? Did I say something wrong today in practice? Can I do the next session a little bit better? And it's like, hey, like, they have parents, they have friends, they have a whole world. Um, you are not a god. You are not a world. You're an important part of it, and the healthier you are, the better it could be. But going back all the way to Henri, there was some essence of this even in the way that you play. I think when you do less, you identify where are the moments where you can come in and work in your most creative, um, uh, from your most creative self. And then things have come to me actually in moments of rest more than in moments um, of action.
100%. Yeah.
And it was. it was interesting. There was a I got a gift for like $10,000 that I was not expecting, and it was in this gap that I decided to this year again take a rest. Job opportunities that came in this gap in which I decided to rest, and so I think that the advice that I would take is, I mean, you can take it anyway. It could be do less on the field. Um, uh, it could be evaluate your arrogance, to not to the people around you, but just to who you are. That you should take care of yourself and your well-being, and that the world is going to be okay. And so if your inability to rest is an actual act of arrogance, and we are human beings instead of human doings,
Yeah.
and I think that might be for a reason. And sometimes we just got to be, and we don't know what's relaxing because we don't ever look for what we think is or whatever relaxes us. So that's probably another reason why it's so hard for us to find something that's not stimulating. So yeah, so I think it's either just find moments in which you're being more than doing, in which you identify that not resting is an act of arrogance, and doing less on the field will get you almost in scenarios in which you are part of a legendary moment, like my friend was able to be part of. And I'll get the clip of Henri's 400th goal, I believe. So yeah, that's my story, and I'm still
Yeah.
a work in progress, because I'm sure by the end of this year I'm gonna find a way to break the rhythm.
Yeah. And I think it's very important to recognize that, like, physical health and mental health are like two very different things, right? Like, you can be physically fine. Like, I tell players all the time who come to me, I get this message all the time. Christo, I don't have motivation to train. I'm not able to, like, I go to team trainings and I'm not motivated. I can't motivate myself to go train on my own. And I tell them, take one day completely off. I don't care how you're feeling physically, because motivation is a mental thing. I don't care. You don't have an injury. You don't have this. You don't have that. Like, you're not tired physically. Take a day and don't even think about football.
Yeah.
Don't watch a game. Don't watch highlights. Don't go on social media and interact with, posts about soccer. Take a day completely off, and you will wake up the next day and feel so, like, just invigorated, like so ready to like just go and play. Like, this is what, at least for me, is my experience. Like, if when I take a day off and I don't let myself even think about football or soccer, the next day I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm waking up, I'm like, where's a ball? I need to get juggling or something,
It's true to anything. It's true to anything. I don't know. Like, your cell phone needs to charge. If it doesn't charge, it's not gonna work. It's sometimes at my house, I don't know if I said this before, but like, my Wi-Fi breaks down, and then, I mean, all I know how to do is hit the reset button, and magically it works actually better. And so nothing changed inside. The wires are the same. Is the same modem. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. I think so.
But all it needed was to hit reset, and now the Wi-Fi is flying better than before. And so can you hit that reset button and trust that is potentially going to be better than before, or better than you trying to do all these things. So yeah, no, it's tough. It's such a tough concept, because we live in a world of grind, do, and pursue. I mean, it's in the Constitution. It's the pursuit of happiness that we live here for, as opposed to embracing it. So yeah, man, it's a challenging habit or rhythm to incorporate. But man, if there's something that I would tell anybody trying to be the best version, is that, like, rest.
And do a little less. I think, and also, like, I was saying, like, you're one click away from, like, YouTube or whatever. You're one click away from getting on and watching, like, highlights. But, like, you have to put a lot more effort in to watch, like, a full game, right? And the full game is where you see players doing less, rather than, like, when you watch a great player play, that not every play is a highlight play. Most of the time they get the ball, they pass it, they move, most of the time it's these, simple little things that they're doing. And, I know, like I say all the time, like, don't play safe, take risks, all of this
Yeah.
stuff. But like, it's important to recognize the moments, right? Because if you're always taking
Yeah.
risks, then like you're
Yeah.
kind of never taking risk, right? Like it's a balance. And you need to find that balance and not force things, not force the ball forwards, turn back, pass back, rebuild, start again. And then when you find those opportunities to do something, incredible, which you will find if you like in a game. There's never been a game that I've played the whole game and I haven't had a chance to try to do something, magical, or something like really, really, and sometimes I fail. And sometimes like that game, I didn't get a chance to do that. But like, I mean, I had the chance and I just didn't execute. But you will always have those chances if you let them come to you. Whereas if you're chasing them, a lot of the time they don't even come.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And there was a episode of one of the curriculums that I did called "The Rest Is Up to You," and I talked about how. So I had Messi, I had Ronaldo, and then I had Pulisic, I had Gareth Bale, I had Neymar, and all within a gap that all of them been at their best. But the only thing that differentiates Messi and Ronaldo is their ability to stay healthy. And so all the other ones have lost about 15 to 30 games a year because of an injury. And so it's almost inevitable for Messi and Ronaldo to be better than everybody else. It's like if I play checkers every single day and you play checkers once a day, I'm gonna be better than you just because I play that much more. So how can Messi and Ronaldo not be that much better than everybody else when out of just about every player in the world, they're the ones that get injured less.
Yeah.
And so
think about think about the training that they were able to do like if you're missing 30 games, you're missing like 100 training sessions, right? So and Messi and Ronaldo are there.
And that's to say, like, you want to be like Messi and Ronaldo, but are you resting like Messi or Ronaldo?
Yeah.
A lot of the injury has a lot of injury prevention has to do with how well you recover, and I think they're probably doing it at the highest of levels to prevent so much injury. So I think the rest of Pulisic's season or career, the rest of Neymar's career, the rest of Gareth Bale's career is up to them, and at the same time, the rest or your ability to rest is up to you. But it's so undervalued, and we only see the Ronaldo with his abs and how much he's working, but he's probably sleeping. I think Messi sleeps like, there was one article that I read that he sleeps like 10 hours and Ronaldo takes naps every day. I don't know. And obviously you got to find ways to incorporate those rhythms because you're not earning as much money as them. But the reality is it's because it's those gaps of rest that help them perform. So yeah,
100%.
however that looks like for you, even if it's one more hour a day, 30 minutes a day where you rest, and it doesn't have to, rest doesn't mean sleep. That's the other thing that people think, that rest is just sleep. So yeah, and I'd say surround yourself by people that don't drag you to soccer all the time. And it'll help you detach from this
100%. Yeah, 100%. You need a life outside of sport. Yeah, we can translate into mine. Okay. So it's funny because a lot of the stuff you said was stuff maybe we'll touch on again, especially, human beings, not human doings. I was probably 15 or 16. I was going through a really, really rough time in my life. With friends, girls, and just like my life in general. And then obviously I was translating towards on the field performances, wasn't having the best season, wasn't playing too well, so it was tough. And I kind of felt a little bit like embarrassed because a lot of the issues I was having with friends and stuff, it wasn't stuff that just they had done. it was mistakes that I had made as well. So I felt the feeling like that I could describe would probably be like embarrassed. So I was a little bit embarrassed by like who I was, what I was doing, and especially probably because at that point, a lot of my, self-worth and my identity was tied up in sports, how I was playing. So if I wasn't playing well, that was, it was a very difficult thing for me. So it's hard to say like whether I wasn't playing well and that caused me to have a lot of trouble in my relationships, with people, or if I was having a tough time in my relationships with people and that was translating towards on the field. I honestly couldn't tell you which came first and what affected what more. But life was kind of just tough in general. And I had a friend who it's funny because I got this advice, some of the best advice I've ever gotten from someone who was a year older than me. Not even, some coach that I was playing for or something. And it's interesting because it's like such profound advice. I remember that, I remember it to this day and I'll never forget this. But he was also a teammate of mine, but this wasn't a conversation we're having, away from soccer. And it wasn't about how I was playing on the field as much as it was, what was going on in my, in my life at that point. But he said that sometimes you have to separate who you are from what you have done. So to other people, you will always be what you have done. You'll be how you talk to them, what you've done with them or to them, and how you've kind of like acted around them. That's who you are to other people. Mm-hmm. But most people also define themselves by what they've done, by their past. Most people allow that to define who they are now. And because of that, they never allow themselves to change. They never, recreate themselves. Now, at any moment in your life, you can be anything. You can change anything in your life. Okay. You can be. So if I wake up tomorrow and I say, all right, today I'm going to be louder than usual. I can do that, right? I can do that. I can be louder. I can talk louder in every conversation I have. I have control over that. If I say that I want to be kinder than usual, I can also control that. If I make a conscious effort. So Andres, I know you said you were moving. How's that going? Is everything's going well?
It's tough to find a place. I thought I found a spot.
No, but you can. These are things you control. Now, most things are a little bit harder to change than just talking louder, being like adding a little bit of kindness into who you are. Most things are harder, but you do have control over those things. You can change at any moment. You can change. You don't have to be defined by what you've done. So I was embarrassed about how I was playing, certain things I probably said to people, how I'd acted to other people, because I was, in moments of frustration, we say things we probably regret later. Don't be defined by what you do. Be defined by who you are, right? Who you are is what matters. And I know obviously like what you do matters, and to other people, it matters a lot. It's the only thing that matters, but you know who you are. And the only path forward, if you want to be a better person, is to be who you want to be, rather than dwelling on good things you've done in the past as well, because that doesn't mean you're going to be a good person tomorrow necessarily. And the bad things you do doesn't mean you're going to wake up tomorrow and be a bad person. If you can recognize that and change that. So sometimes you have to separate those two things. Now, obviously, the things you do have consequences. All right. I'm not saying that you can erase everything you've done in the past, but sometimes for yourself, and this isn't for other people, because obviously, no one's going to forgive you if you just wake up and say, oh, I'm a different person today. But for yourself,
unless you're Will Smith. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to separate those two things, what you've done. All right. And who you are. And it can be a very powerful way to kind of move on from things that you're maybe embarrassed about or regret. So moving this kind of like onto the field, I see so many players who define themselves by how they've played. in a game, how they played in over the course of a season. But you know, or I hope you know, and if not, you should find out, who are you as a player? You know, we talked about this last week, like what makes you special. These are conversations you need to have with yourself as a player to figure out who you are. And obviously, other people, what do they see? They see the game. They see, or maybe your coach, they see the training sessions and the game. But I mean, a lot of people who are judging you, they only see the game. And, you know, they will judge you. People judge you every day. That's just how life goes, right? But you know who you are. Or if you don't, find out who you are by having these conversations with yourself. And once you know that, it can be very empowering to say, like, you know, I played bad in this game, but that's not who I am as a player. You know, I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm going to train hard. Next weekend, I'm going to have a better game. But even if I have a better game, that's not who I am as a player either. You know, it's not the things that you do on the field that necessarily, like, sometimes you have to separate those, you know, this game, how you played in, that training session, how you did in, from who you are as a player, because that's not what kind of defines you.
It's a really difficult and intimidating question that you place, because I think the reality is that a lot of us don't know who we are, and it takes effort, it takes honesty and vulnerability to go and identify that I don't know who I am because I was a soccer player my entire life, or because I played for this club all of my youth years and now I got to move to this other club, because I play midfield and now I got to play forward, because I play forward and and so it's really difficult to not be identified by what you do when you haven't fully grounded yourself in who you are. And I think that's a question that is there an answer to that? And it depends on the individual, because at the same time, if you're looking for who you are, you're, like you're saying, every day you're also becoming. And so at what moment are you confused as to, like, I want to be here, but I'm this, am I happy with who I am today? But and I think the most powerful thing is to not let the actions define you, especially actions that are have less to do with your human side, because soccer players is a game, is a craft, and it's full of emotions, and you'll be impulsive, and you'll have good touch and you have a bad touch, but you really have to reflect on it. And I wish there was more training and more coaching in the individual within a soccer program, because then they will go on the field and they will be less afraid to take risk. They would be less embarrassed after a bad day. They will be less arrogant after a good day, because they know that who they are. They were not born a soccer player. As much as we want to say, I was born to play soccer, I was born to coach soccer. No, you were not. You just happened to be in an environment where soccer was prevalent. Had you been born in any other environment, you would have said that you were born to do that. So I think it's a question that goes so deep, and we could even do a whole episode on
100%.
how to understand who you are, because I think a lot of people, especially like even myself, like there's moments where like you could get caught up in your passion for the game, and like I'm a coach, but that's not the only thing that I am. I gave a talk on you got to have constant board meetings with yourself, and I have to go and talk to Andres the brother, Andres the son, Andres the coach, Andres the boyfriend, Andres the pastor, Andres, all the Andreses, because in my journey of realizing who I am, I got to consider all of the Andreses have different ideas, and when I can find a common denominator or common ground in all of these different layers of myself, then I get closer to knowing who I am. But it goes back to, if you're hanging out only with Coach Andres, like if I'm only hanging out with Coach Andres, I'm very much limiting who I actually am. And then my actions will very much influence my emotions, because then any tactical, any practice that I don't do well, or any game that I lose, that's where I'm gonna go to. Like, oh, I'm a bad coach. But maybe I was an exceptional brother that week, and that might mean significantly more. So I think it's such a powerful question that you posed. Can you repeat the phrase that your friend said? Sometimes what?
Sometimes you have to separate who you are from what you have done.
From what you have done.
As a translation, again, it was, I've gotten a lot of good advice in Greece. So it wasn't in Greek that he originally said it to me, but I've translated as best I could. But yeah, I think like there's this like particular moment on a field that I always remember, like one of my worst misses in like a really, really big game. It was like a cut back to me that I, ran onto, I actually made good contact. And it went into the side netting, instead of going into the goal. And we ended up winning that game, but I still think about that mistake. And I'm thinking now, like, would my life be any different if I had scored that goal? And it's like, not really. What if we had lost that game? Would my life be any different right now? Not really. We always have like these, like this one moment where like I messed up this relationship, or this one moment where I messed up in a game that, and all my teammates were like really, really upset at me. But like, what I always say to players is like, you're the same person before a mistake as you are after that mistake, unless you let it change you. Right. Yeah. But you have the power to not let it change you. You have the power to like at any moment, like that feeling after you score a goal or something, that incredible feel where like you feel like I'm on top of the world. Like I was always a player. Like if I scored one goal, I was scoring like 5 goals because I was feeling myself. Then I realized like I can feel like that all the time. If I can find a way to control that, channel that, I can feel like that all the time. I don't need to wait to score my first goal to feel like that. I can play like that all the time. But, we let our emotions, good or bad, kind of like take control of us. Whereas like you have some control over these things. I'm not saying that like you can control how you feel all the time, but you do have control over a lot more than you think you do.
Yeah, well, the other advice that I was contemplating sharing was it was a phrase that was like, your emotions are real, but they are not your reality. And so it goes back to the same thing. Like I feel a certain way after my actions, but that's not the reality. Like I missed the pass, but I'm not a bad passer. I missed the goal, but I'm not a bad shooter. I lost the game, or I made the wrong sub, but I'm not a bad coach. So you may feel like it, and the emotions are real. And we're not asking you to neglect your emotions. Your emotions are real, but they are not your reality. I think it goes back to, I think there was one of the stories that you shared about, we talked about that maybe it wasn't your fault. It has more to do with the way your coach was brought up, and then the environment that the coach had to build. And I think it's on us too, for if we feel this strong about it, like, can we find a way to interrupt this narrative and help the players fracture this mentality of I'm defined by being a player, and finding the balance where like we're gonna work our asses off, we're gonna work everything possible to be the best team on game day and get you guys to wherever you want to get, but that can't define you as a person, and it's on us to find the right rhythms to interrupt that. I'm gonna add my regular Christian side to things. Well, I'll say this first. I think you got to surround yourself with people that look at you beyond your craft. And so you got to surround yourself by people that see you by more than a soccer player, more than a coach, more than a striker, more than a defender, more than and that you really know that they love you and they care for you. Because I'm sure everybody has heard of this story of Adam and Eve, and they ate the apple, right? And I think the challenge was not so much that do you have the ability to say no to eating the apple? I think the actual challenge was, do you have the ability to eat the apple and know that your creator still loves you? And I think them not being aware that they could go back to their creator and run to him and ask for help. It's like if a kid is addicted to drugs, and will they run to their parents to ask for help, or will they run away because they're afraid or because they're embarrassed? It goes back to that embarrassment piece. And so I think surrounding yourselves with people that you can run to in your worst moments can fracture that. And they can also help you understand who you are in the process. Or also what we talked last week, who you're not might get you closer to who you are, because it might be difficult to identify yourself or who you represent or what you represent, but maybe identifying who I'm not, and these people can help you. So surround yourself by people that in your worst perceived worst moments, you can run to them as opposed to run away. And so, are we being coaches that when our players make mistakes, can they run to us, or will they run away from us?
Yeah.
You know,
if
same thing if you're a player.
Yeah, if like if you make a mistake, right? Like, and I call you out on it, are you gonna like get defensive and like big and say like, no, that wasn't a mistake, or even just like think that you might say like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yep.
But like, are you gonna think that like, nah, that wasn't really a mistake? Because if that's the case, it's probably on me, because the environment isn't where you can just accept that you made a mistake, right? And I think that like surrounding yourself with the right people is super, super important, because like sometimes you have to separate who you are from what you have done. Like what you have done, like if other people only see like if other people only see what you have done, or if you only see what you've done, and you can't kind of like have those conversations about who you are, or other people can't help to remind you, who you are, then you start to see yourself like you're not even you. Like you start to see yourself like you're someone else looking at this person, and you're like judging yourself for what you've done. It's like you need to learn to accept what you've done, and also realize that like there's always a path forward. And I remember my grandfather used to say, this is the other advice that I was thinking of, was very simple, but he used to say to me, like every time I would go away to Greece or to England, whenever I left, he would always tell me, Christo, remember who you are. And that was the last thing he said to me. It was the last thing he said to me, but it was also the last thing he said to me every time, like I didn't see him for a couple of weeks or a month or a year or something. That's what he would say to me. And that's something like that's like a voice that I hear in my head a lot is, remember who you are. And maybe like, I'm different now than I was then. I'm different, at a lot of different moments, but it's something like,
I think that brings, that injects some sort of peace inside of you. And I think you express yourself your best as a player, as a coach, as anything that you do, when there's this inner peace inside of you. I think when you're at peace, embarrassment is not inside of you. I think embarrassment does the opposite. You're unsettled constantly. So I think finding yourself is gives you a reference and to stay stable, which is really helpful when you're an athlete. And like we were saying, like, and if you're a player, let's say you're a captain, can you create or help your coach create? Because I know this is not only for coaches or for, like, we want the players to go into the field. If you want to be a captain someday, or you are a captain right now, create an environment where your teammates can run to you, as opposed to run away. Shoot, my captain's gonna be all over me. So it has so much to do with, and we haven't even touched like, how do you pass the ball? How do you shoot the ball? How do you, but yeah, these are really good practical things.
Yeah. All right. Are we ready for 3 key takeaways?
Wow.
I could come up with 10 from this one. Yeah.
About 10. Okay, I went first, so I'll stick to the rest is up to you. I like that phrase. If you write it somewhere, it has rest as in like you are in control. The rest is up to you. You are in control. And the word rest itself is just resting. So write everywhere that you journal, remind yourself the rest is up to me. And that will help you identify. And I think in moments of rest, you learn who you are too.
Yeah, 100%. I said that a while ago, but like, I have my best ideas, not when I'm like scrolling on social
Mhm.
media or doing the, like I have my best ideas in my car driving, listening to music, or maybe when I'm, meditating or going for a walk or something. Like those are the moments that like inspiration
Mm.
hits you. Sometimes you need that quiet to be
Mhm.
inspired. Yeah. Next, I'll say that spend some time getting to know yourself. And that,
Mm.
you can do that in a bunch of different ways. I think that some of the time it should be you alone, spending some time getting to know yourself, in, uh, like some, quiet time by yourself. It can be really helpful taking a walk, but also talking to people who love and care about you, is something I talk about all the time. Super, super important. I think that like it's so like it's just essential to talk to people, to like surround yourself by the right people, and then talk to them, and talking to other people who know you really well can help you kind of get to know yourself. But knowing yourself is, it's a constant kind of journey
Mm.
that we're on throughout our life. But a lot of people maybe don't want to know themselves, don't, or maybe scared
Mm.
what they'll find out. But knowing yourself
Mm.
really is, an important step in succeeding at anything, I think.
Yeah, that's good. Um, and the third one, yeah, we talked about a lot of things. I would say, I would say like challenge yourself to be the person who creates that environment that people can run to you as opposed to run away from you. Um, if you're looking to be a leader in any sphere, um, you find ways to get make people feel safe. So help people run to you as opposed to away from you in their worst moments. I think that will help not just you, but the environment and the people around you. Um, and yeah, it will help you as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of like the biggest challenges as a leader, is because you want to like for me, like as a coach, for you as a coach, for your content, my content, like I want to challenge people to be better while also
Mm.
providing a space where they can try to be better. And if they fail, that's okay. And that's like
Yeah,
that balance that I try to strike. And sometimes I fall too far on one side. Sometimes I fall too far on the other side.
yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah,
and everyone needs like a little bit of a different balance. So it's really tough at times. But I
yeah.
try to strike that balance of, like I'm here for you, but at the same time I do expect a lot from you. But if you mess
Mhm.
up and you fail, then that's okay too.
Yeah,
It's a tough
yeah,
balance, but really, really important, I think.
yeah, yeah. That's it. Those
All
are the
right.
three.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to episode 11 of the Infinite Improvement Podcast. We'll be back next week with another episode. We're going to be talking about something a coach told us that we disagree with. So that'll be an interesting one, to
Wow.
talk about. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this episode. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Podcasts. And yeah, see you next week. Peace.
You guys.